Ding. Yep, nice. Hi, this is Sean Law from Sydney Lorcana. I've got Connor here, who's won 2 set champs with Ruby Saphire. There were 2 different lists, so we'll just talk about the different lists and why there were some changes made between the 2 of them. And I guess also how the set champs that you won went. Like how are your matchups and stuff. Alright then. Cool, well we've got the first list up here. Yeah. Do you wanna talk about some of the numbers here? I mean
so
yeah.
this one I played, it was the first weekend of set champs at Good Game Central. And going into the set champs, it's always, the first weekend, it's always a little unknown what people are going to bring and what people are going to come with. Like what their pet deck is going to be for this time around in set champs. So I was expecting a lot of aggressive Amber Steel lists, to be honest, especially in Sydney. Amber Steel is a favorite of a lot of the players there, and the aggressive Amber Steel lists seemed to get the most new cards with set 8 coming out. That being the Rhino shift in particular, and things like that as well. So basically, this deck was built for maximum efficiency against the more aggressive Steel Song lists. That with the 4 goofs in particular being the main choice that was made there. 2 Sisus as well, but that's relatively standard. In terms of matchups on the day, I actually started pretty rough on the day itself. My round 1 was a Steel Song list, but it wasn't an aggressive list. It was the sort of the value list, I suppose you call it now. There's no wheels, but the ones that include the beast and that sort of list.
And it's got the discard spell as well, right?
I don't believe it had the discard package. It was just sort of like the slightly slower Sonic Warrior aerial list with the beast and the Be Our Guest as well. That sort of list.
Okay.
We went to time actually. We drew. We couldn't get a winner there. So started off with a draw, and then I matched a purple steel. Unfortunately, my hands were pretty rough that game. I ended up losing actually. So I was 1 draw and a loss going into round 3. Third round, I played it. It was actually an aggressive Amber Steel list. I won that one 2-1. I believe I was on the draw. So that was a matchup, I suppose, where some of those tech choices coming in good. The things like the Goofy to take out the Smees that have quested once already, stuff like that are maximum value. Curving out with the bodies, like going 4 cost Goof, 5 cost Rush melee. Playing as many Rush characters as possible basically is the best way to do it. Took that 1-1. Then I beat a Blue Steel 2-0, and my winning in was against another Amber Steel aggro, which I won on the draw 2-1.
That's good. And then how was was it a top 4 or a top? I assume it was a top 8.
Yeah, Central was a top 8. There was 26 players there, I think. 25, 26, something like that. Yeah, and my first so top 8 match was against another one of the sort of slower beast Steel Song lists. Drew quite well that game. I was on the draw both games, but managed to take it 2-0. I was actually on the draw all of my top cut games, which was tough, but that's how the dice roll sometimes, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, also being able to ramp definitely mitigates a bit of going second, because you're still keeping pace and in some cases overtaking them in the resources on the ink resources.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason, because all set champs are best of 3 this set now. That's part of the reason I like to bring red blue is I feel like it's the deck that plays best from on the draw, and because it's best of 3, the dice roll matters a lot more now. Obviously, best of 2, it's you go first once either way, regardless. So when it's best of 3, dice roll matters a little more. So I figured I'd take a deck that's that's good on the draw if I lose the dice roll.
Yeah, and how else was your other top 8 matchups?
Top 4 was green purple, which had become a bit after this weekend became a bit of a phenomenon across Sydney. Everyone started playing green purple, but that was my first exposure to it, I suppose, really, or at least this time around the set jams. I beat it 2-0 on the draw. They were very close games, though, from memory. They were sort of the green perp player was on 18, 19 law both games by the time I managed to turn the corner and get there. And then the final was against a very traditional Steel Song list with Whole New World, Robin Hood, Shift, that sort of thing. And that's a really good matchup for me and the way that this deck's built in particular. So I took that one 2-0 as well.
Yeah, and with your list, I can see that you're running the full 4 Be Prepared and 2 Sisu. I've seen sometimes people change, some people run 3 Sisu, 3 Be Prepared, or go the full 4 Sisu, no Be Prepared, or 2 Be Prepared. What was your reasoning for, or your thought process in running the full 4 Be Prepared and shaving down the Sisus?
Yeah, for me, I don't really see it as a B prep versus Sisu. To be honest, when I build my versions of these lists, 4B prep is pretty much non-negotiable. I think it's basically auto include.
Yeah.
The way I see it is more like Sisu versus Hades. That count can shift a little bit depending on what I expect. So if I'm expecting more low to the ground, Steel Song aggro, even Green Perp aggro to a slightly lesser extent, I'll shift more towards the Sisu side. And if I'm expecting more red blue mirrors or red purple or something like that, I'll shift more towards the Hades side. Being the first weekend, I was sort of, I expected Amber Steel, but I wasn't totally sure what people were going to bring. So I played it kind of safe with the 2-2 split, to be honest. There, and like I said, with the B prep count, I would never play less than 4, to be honest. I think it's pretty much non-negotiable.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of 4-ofs in your deck. It's pretty
Mhm.
much the only things that aren't 4-ofs are the Sisu and the Hades.
Exactly, yeah. Just for
Did
that
you
maximum consistency, basically.
did you find the 4 Pirates Life pretty invaluable in your matchups?
Yeah, I did
You,
because to be honest, I feel like with with this list, oftentimes the first copy you see of any given card is allowed to be inked. I like to think of it that way. Um, Whereas if you're playing less than 4, so if I'm playing 3 Pirates Last, for example, and I draw the first one off the top, I'm always a little more hesitant to ink it in that case because I know that there's only 2 left in the deck instead of 3. So I like to Tamatella the same, the sort of 4 cost, not 4 cost, sorry, the 6 cost item recurring Tamatella. If I see one of those, the first one I draw, I know that there's still 3 more in there, so I can usually afford to ink the first one. Whereas if I was playing 3, I'd have to be a little more conservative with that. I often find the toughest decision when playing this deck is what I'm inking and what I'm keeping. So having that flexibility with it is helpful for me.
yeah, well, you've also got a pretty low uninkable count.
Yeah, 12.
Uh, yeah, I was expecting it to be a bit high. But yeah, I mean 12 is pretty good because, well, I mean you've got some high end stuff. So if you get it early, it's a little
Mhm.
can be a little bricky. But with Tipo being able to ink them, it's
Yeah.
not as bad, I guess.
Yeah, and how far I'll go as a card itself, I almost don't count that as a full inkable card because using it provides you an ink in itself. It's almost like I almost counted as half of an inkable card, if that makes sense. I know that's not really how it works, but
Yeah, well, I mean it's a pretty crazy card. I mean the fact that it's a song,
yeah,
it replaces the card in your hand. Plus, it also ramps you, and it doesn't care whether what you're putting is inkable or not.
exactly. Yeah,
It is pretty strong.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
it's
so it really helps mitigate that definitely. Um, yeah. Another choice that I see people make that I often stray away from is people go back and forth on the count of Goofy, Super Goof, and Brawl. Um,
oh yeah,
to be honest,
you don't have any brawls in your list.
exactly. Yeah.
That's a first.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not a big believer in Brawl as a card. I don't think it's particularly good in this deck. I think that the only value it really has is when you get into those situations where you've got a shark on board and you can start recurring it by challenging with the shark and brawling multiple times in a turn. But I just don't feel like those circumstances are often enough, and I find Goof is a more flexible card, both for suppressing an early start from the opponent, or also closing out my own game. Now, it's pretty often when it comes to the late game where I finish the game by playing 2 Super Goose and hitting something that they've quested with and getting that instant 4 lore. I just think I'm not a huge believer in Brawl, to be honest.
And also with your list, I noticed that you haven't got any way to give the shark rush. Did you find that, like, I mean, obviously the shark, when he comes down, usually people stop questing unless you've got no actions. But given that you're red blue and not red purple, you have tons of actions usually. Do you find that just the shark not having rush, like with yeah? Did you find that was like that? Did that ever sort of come up in any of your games, that you sort of like put the shark and then it sort of just
Yeah, I know what you
died,
mean.
and then you had to try and find another shark to try and stabilize?
Yeah, I know what you mean. The issue with it is I believe, unless I'm missing a card, the most efficient way to give it rush in red blue is the use of Vitalosphere,
Yeah,
um,
that was what
which
I was.
is which is a lot less efficient than something like Peter Pan, which purple has access to,
Yeah,
in the sense that if I want to on curve play the shark and rush it, it's no longer I can no longer do that when I'm on 6 ink. I have to wait an additional turn, and that's assuming that I've already got the Vitalosphere set up, because it's one to play and one to banish and give the rush. So if it's at 7 ink and I really need that rush character, I'm already at 7 ink. It's more likely, if I have it in hand, that I'll play something like a Be Prepared instead and just wipe the whole board. I don't find that I'm ever wishing that my shark had rush, except for in like super niche scenarios, I suppose, where I've already got lots and lots of ink, and then it would obviously be nice. But um, with the expectation that I was going to have to combat a lot of aggressive decks this first weekend, I just find it's one turn too slow quite often. I'd almost rather even play 4 ink, play a goof, 5 ink, play a rush Maui, and 6 ink, play another rush Maui, rather than even just drop the shark and just continue to clear their stuff over and over.
yeah, because I mean that. Yeah, I mean once you get control of the board, then the half shark closes games out very quickly, along with the mana.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Um, yeah, was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this list? I mean, I think we can perhaps look at your other list.
Yeah, sure.
Just hang on a second. All right, so here's your second list,
Yeah.
and we can already see there's a few noticeable differences. I mean, there's the carpet bag, which seems like that's like every blue red deck now seems to be playing at least one of
Yeah.
carpet bag, because you can cheat it in off the Tamatoa, and it just effectively is like a Tamatoa every turn,
Yeah.
because the ink inefficiency doesn't matter as much when you have so much ink.
Yeah, definitely. So 3 changes I made for this deck, which was this was the weekend just passed at NJ, which was a smaller set chance. I believe it was 11 or 12, so just top 4 cut. I made 3 changes to the list that we just saw, which is I brought in one of the carpet bag, like you said. I brought in Maleficent Dragon, and also one All Is Found. And the cuts I made for that was a Super Goof, a Hades, and also a Pirate's Life. So you can see that those are on
Yeah,
three
they're on
Goof,
three.
three
Yeah.
Goof, 3 Pirate's Life, and 1 Hades. Um, Reasons for the swap is, this is a few weeks, last weekend is a few weeks after the first weekend that I won. The meta had developed and changed a little bit, and you get to know what people have been playing. And firstly, the emergence of green purple was very evident. Another city player took out 3 or 4 of 4 set champs on basically the same green purple deck, so that was definitely present in the meta. Also, in this specific sort of quite small meta, there was 2 players that I was aware of that were going to bring yellow-green discard, which is a pretty abysmal matchup for my deck. It's pretty much the worst matchup that you can get playing red-blue shark like this. So knowing that it was going to be a decent percentage of the field and also piloted by players that I would expect to meet in top card if I was to get there, I made those swaps to target that deck. Or it's hard to target that deck, but make myself a little more favored, give myself a few more percentage points into that deck.
Yeah, well, that's why I guess the all is found is pretty clutch there, because
Yeah,
you just, in that sort of matchup, you just want to try and ramp quickly to just start dumping your fat creatures, because they're not that equipped to deal with them.
yeah,
And I mean, also where you probably want to try and put your manas down pretty quickly, because they also don't have, like, unless they were running Cricky, they haven't really got that
yeah.
good of an answer for a location when everything in their deck is, or most of their deck is 1/1s and 1 power, 2 power creatures.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess to break down the specific choices a little more, they ended up being good swaps. I played both green-yellow players throughout the tournament last weekend and beat them both 2-1. So it ended up mattering quite a bit. The Maleficent, pretty simply, I wanted to include a carpet bag, and a carpet bag is an uninkable card. I didn't really want to play 13 uninkables, so essentially I swapped a Hades for a Maleficent Dragon to do
Yeah.
a similar job, obviously a little more expensive, but with the additional benefit that it's an inkable card. The carpet bag, as you mentioned, gets cheated out with the Tamatar, which is really nice. And in that specific matchup, in the yellow-green matchup, it makes a huge difference. I think it's almost, I don't know if I would say it swings the matchup into my favor, but I reckon it makes it pretty close, because the way I see the matchup is pretty much inevitably at some point they're going to get your hand empty and you're going to be top decking at some point. But if you've got the carpet bag out and you've got a popsicle in your discard to keep bouncing, you're literally drawing double the amount of cards every turn, which is enormous. It's huge in that matchup. I think it almost flips it into your favor. Maybe not that quite that dramatically, but pretty close. And
Yeah, well, it
also,
also lets you ink potentially each turn, so it gets
yeah,
you, because yeah, when you're playing discard, that's usually what causes the problem, is that they'll rip through your hand before you can ramp,
yeah,
and then you're drawing your Sisus and Hades, and you can't play them, and then they just discard them, and
yep,
then they're just
exactly.
sort of picking away with their disruptive questers as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and the all is found is pretty obviously it's just the biggest sort of, or it's the most, it's the biggest bursty ramp, I guess, is the way I'd describe it. You play it and you go from 5 to 7 or 8 ink, depending on if you've inked that turn already or whatever. And it came up really big in this matchup. I cast it 3 times, I think, in the games in this matchup, and I ended up winning all 3 of those games just because it allows me to get high enough ink so that when they do inevitably get rid of my whole hand, that whatever card I draw, I'm able to play, whatever, regardless of whatever it is. The absolute nightmare in that matchup is that they get your hand empty and you draw off the top. You draw your big Sisu, but you look down, you've only got 6 or 7 ink, and that's the nightmare scenario. So casting that card is huge if you can get it off.
And did you find that one all is found was enough, or did you think that it would have been better to bump it up to two? I mean, you've got the typical blue, like, digging spells to
Hmm.
find your one of, I guess, when you need it. But Did you find one was sufficient, or did you think, maybe or looking in hindsight, would you have put a second one in?
Yeah, the issue with the card, I like the card overall. The only issue I find with it is it can be a bit of a dead card in other matchups where you don't really have the time to cast it. If I knew for certain, like if you could have told me in advance, you're definitely going to play both yellow-green players today, I would have bumped it to 2 just to more consistently hit it. But the reason I hedged at 1 was just because I'm aware that it's a dead card in other matchups, and if by some chance I didn't end play any of the yellow green players on the day, I didn't want to have 2 dead cards in my deck, basically.
And how did you find with the shaving of the Super Goof and the Pirate's Life? Because you mentioned in your previous, on the previous deck, like Super Goof was pretty, like, you'd often double Super Goof for Lorcal, or get use it to control the early game, and Pirate's Life. I mean, when you're playing an aggro deck, Pirate's Life is like pretty backbreaking if you can play 1, and if you can play 2,
Yeah,
that usually allows you to stabilize or
yeah,
slow them
definitely.
down enough. So, how did you find with the reduced numbers uh, there?
Yeah, the choice to make room in the deck by cutting one of each of those was basically just a call on what I expected the players to be playing on the day. Um, I know because it's a little more local to me. I knew a lot more of the players personally, and quite frankly, I just expected less aggro to be present on the day. Uh, if I was trying to do both, if I was trying to be strong against the aggro package and also the yellow green discard, I probably would have looked towards cutting something like one of my develop your brains or something like that, and keeping in the super goof probably. But I knew that just based on what people were going to play, that or what I thought people were going to play, I suppose, that I had the room to go 3 and 3 on those cards instead, make the room that way.
And how was your matchups that weekend?
Mm. So round 1, straight away, I paired the first yellow green player, which I was quite upset about it, to be honest. I didn't want to pair them round 1 for obvious reasons. Um, but thankfully, I got the win there 2-1. I was on the play, and game 3 they bricked pretty hard, but sometimes you need that to get over a tough matchup. So we take those and we move on. Second game was against Steel Song. It was a more traditional list with wheel, things like that. A matchup that I'm quite comfortable in. Anyone playing this deck should probably be quite comfortable in that as well. The only way you really lose that matchup is if they get some really poorly timed, from your perspective, wheels off on you, and they start dumping your B preps or your Sisus into the discard before you get a chance to use them. But it was pretty standard one there. I think that was a 2-1 as well. Um, Round 3, I played a Blurple. Unfortunately, went to time, which was not great. It was looking like I was going to get the win in the third game there, but the clock beat me to it. So we split that 1-1. And the last round, I paired somebody that was more keen on IDing and securing themselves the promo. So I ID'd into top 4.
And then
And
how
then
was your top 4?
top 4, I played against the same Steel Song player from round 2. So very comfortable in that matchup, and ended up taking that one. I believe that one was 2-1 as well on the draw this time because they were the highest seed. And then the final was the other yellow green player. So I ended up playing both individual yellow green players on the day, also on the draw because they were higher seed, and ended up getting there. I had some really nice top decks in that last game. I managed to get to 10 ink and top deck divisions, found the Sisu, and that was kind of, swung the game. Ended up
Yeah, well,
scoring.
Sisu is pretty backbreaking when you play it against a
Yeah,
lot of the discard decks, because it gets rid of pretty much all their ward characters.
yeah, yeah. He had 3. I think he had 2 Johns and a Diablo on board or something, and they were just wiped, and that was kind of the end.
All right then, and are you're still doing some store? There's still 2 more store champs
Mm.
left this weekend. Are you gonna try and go to another 2?
That's a good question. I don't know. The last 2 on the weekend are Sydney only. Like there's none closer than that. So I'm not sure if I'll get down for both. I'd like to get down for one probably at least because it is the last set champs weekend before rotation and all that stuff. So it could be the last time that I get to play this deck or something similar looking before half of it is potentially rotated out. Please reprint B prep. Um,
Yeah, I'm
but
hoping for a B prep.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, reprint. As I mean, they reprinted Pirate's Life, which I was not expecting them to do. I was expecting them to give, like, one of the new cards would be like some sort of lore swing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was a little surprised about the Pirates Life, but I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
There are some cards that I would be very surprised if they did come back through rotation, like Sisu, for example, or even something like How Far I'll Go. I doubt will come back, but we'll have to see how that looks, obviously.
All right then. Well, thanks for giving this in-depth talk on 2 different red blue lists. If Do you have any social media plugins if anyone wants to talk to you about blue red, or you also play Steel Song as well?
Yeah, I've bought Steel Song a few times. I've won a set champ on Steel Song. It's not my favorite deck, to be honest, but I have a few reps on that as well. But Blue Red definitely my sort of
Blue red's your main deck.
yeah, yeah. So if anyone's interested in chatting to me about that, my Discord is, as you can see on the deck list on the screen, it's just Cone.
All right then. Well, thank you for that, and hopefully we'll get you on the channel post rotation and to talk about even just new decks you're working on, or
Yeah,
the new iteration of blue red, because I'm positive that blue red will still work post rotation. Just
yeah,
I mean, it always seems to still work.
that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
How
right
close it
then.
looks to this, we'll see. But yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.